The best speech ever. Really. I thought of calling it the best speech ever. Take that, Bill Clinton. But the best speech ever really doesn't sound humble. Of all the great speeches, one thing they had in common was that they were delivered with confidence. Before a good speech is spoken, one needs a subject and a title that might entice an audience. Now, I've tried to do this in the past, come up with catchy titles. Some of my previous speech titles are Idiots, Activist Judges, Civics, and the United States Supreme Court, Ra, Blue Blankies, Ghosts, Holy Ghosts and the Flying Spaghetti Monster, Executive Powers, Spies, Lies, and Taps, Endowed by their Creator, Considering the Origins of Civil Rights, The Gay Divorcee, 1001 Reasons to Seek Equality, Whoosh, Was That Our Constitution? The USA Patriot Act, Safety and Freedom. When does a pledge expire? Making sense of the Pledge of Allegiance controversy, Opinions, Dominions, Great Virginians, and the Hope for Civil Discourse. Now those are actual titles from actual speeches that I've delivered around the state of Florida and other places. There are a few videos of some of those presentations at civication.org. If you have 27 minutes, go there, check them out. Now those were actual titles. I thought you might like to hear some rejected speech titles for tonight. One, Eubonic Prayers for the Genetic Age. Preparing for Poverty, a retirement plan that works. God doesn't make a move without asking me first. Should priests be allowed to marry each other? Facebook, can't wait to see how it ends. God's Last Will and Testament. How mumbling can help win an argument. Airbags, Republicans, and stomach stapling. Tenured professors and Greek life behind closed doors. Online medical schools for arthroscopic retinal repair. Adults, cults, and insults. Those are rejected speech titles. However, one shouldn't just go for a catchy title, but have the subject be one in which the speaker has some familiarity. Think of the best speech ever, really. Okay, that's long enough. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day, right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. 47 years ago. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender. Give me liberty or give me death. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be the children of God. I stand before you tonight under indictment for the alleged crime of having voted at the last presidential election without having a lawful right to vote. It shall be my work this evening to prove to you that thus voting, I not only committed no crime, but instead simply exercised my citizen's right guaranteed to me and all United States citizens by the national Constitution beyond the power of any state to deny. Someone will say, yes, Socrates, but cannot you hold your tongue, and then you may go into a foreign city, and no one will interfere with you? Now, I have great difficulty in making you understand my answer to this, for if I tell you that this would be a disobedience to a divine command, and therefore that I cannot hold my tongue, you will not believe that I am serious. And if I say that the greatest good of a man is daily to converse about virtue, and all that concerning which you hear me examining myself and others, and that the life which is unexamined is not worth living, that you are still less likely to believe. Great speeches are usually associated with issues that appear to be larger than life itself. Desegregation, equality, freedom, war, death, peace, God, the concept of God, all larger than life. The opening paragraph of the unanimous Declaration of the 13 United States of America begins, "When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should be declared the causes of which impel them to the separation." If that were written today by a high school student, a high school English teacher may have corrected it by suggesting to make it more concise and to the point, which could have given us, "Dear King, we'd like to itemize our complaints." But no, when in the course of human events, it's big, it's great, like the lizard that puffs out his ruffles to look bigger to his enemies than he actually is. Being timid does not a great speech make. That seems to be the part of the problem, making a speech great or otherwise. Timidity, fear. People are often afraid to speak to other people in a room full of people who may be listening. We all have fears. I read somewhere that the opposite of fear isn't bravery or courage, but to surrender, to give in, to yield to our fears. We all have fears. But too often it seems as if we're afraid of the wrong things. Speaking to people in a room full of people who may be listening does create anxiety in many people, if not most. It does me, which is why I prepare. I prepare in an effort to overcome the fears of feeling inadequate or not being accepted or not having the people in the room who may be listening like what I have to say. And if they don't like what I have to say, then I prepare to be okay with that too. Preparation is a great tool in overcoming fears. Anybody here a comic book fan? Anybody follow the escapades of the superheroes? Superman with superpowers. He can fly faster than a speeding bullet. Bullets bounce off his chest. X-ray visions. He can crush coal into diamonds with his bare hands. And there's Batman, who's not really technically a superhero, but as a boy, Bruce Wayne witnessed the murder of his father and became traumatized. He lived in fear as a child. As a man, he was determined to turn his fear into an ally. His weakness as a child became his reason to fight crime. Bruce Wayne was a wealthy guy with gadgets and special clothing designed to make him look fearful to his enemies. He needed to appear larger than life to approach greatness. Now, I want to come back to superheroes during our discussion in the Q&A. Okay, take a moment to think about what great speeches have in common. Good, that's long enough. Now, think about the Gettysburg Address, which is considered to be a great speech, maybe the most well-known speech in American history. It was delivered Thursday afternoon, November 19th, 1863, exactly 149 years ago today. It was given at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. In just under 3 minutes, President Lincoln laid out the principles of human equality espoused by the Declaration of Independence and proclaimed the Civil War as a struggle for the preservation of America, with the hope of a new birth of freedom that would bring true equality to all of its citizens and ensure that democracy would remain a viable form of government and preserve one nation. Now that's a lot to do in less than 3 minutes. Lincoln's short speech followed a 2-hour speech by Congressman Edward from Massachusetts. Lincoln delivered the speech even though he was ill and later diagnosed with a mild case of smallpox. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war. Whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those here who gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it, far beyond our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, no long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather than to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they fought here, have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that a government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Lincoln was able to summarize the war in just 10 sentences. I believe he believed what he said. But Lincoln was wrong. We do remember what was said that day, at least what he said, really. You want to make the best speech ever, really? Find yourself amidst a great emotional calamity that has life and death hanging in the balance. That is the backdrop before which great speeches are made. But let's briefly examine what else great speeches have in common. First, you need some style. Good orators have mastered both the written and the spoken word, and use words to create phrases that are beautiful to hear and read. And sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're poignant, sometimes they're provocative, sometimes they're catchy phrases, and sometimes catchy phrases can make a poor speaker sound interesting, like nadering nabobs of negativism, or television's popular purveyors of pulpit pablum. Then you got to have something to say that has some substance. A speech may be flowery and charismatically presented and yet lack substance. A theme is needed, and it must appeal to and inspire the audience's values and ideas. In other words, if you want to make a great speech, find a great emotional calamity that has life and death hanging in the balance, and then tell the audience what they want to hear, and do it with some style. Lastly, try to make an impact. An effort to persuade the audience of some fact or idea is important. The very best speeches can change the hearts and minds and seem to survive the test of time. Making an impact is different than telling an audience what they want to hear. The next best way to make a great speech after finding a great emotional calamity that has life and death hanging in the balance is to tell the audience what you believe, in an effort to persuade the audience into changing their mind and moving the audience into action. If you do that, you have a chance of making a great speech. Do it with some style. Great speeches are primarily based on emotion, not logic. An appeal to emotion. It's easier to appeal to one's emotional nature because we know that people tend to later apply their own version of logic to justify their emotions as true. Emotional decisions are justified later by logic, which may make the society too skeptical, possibly too logical, too reasoned to become emotional enough to think you've ever seen or heard a great speech. But what happens here at the society are mostly talks, lectures and presentations and discussions. My point is that there's a significant difference between a talk, a lecture, a presentation, and a good speech. And I'd like to discuss this more during the Q&A too. So, you're wondering, where is that 6-point plan to make a great speech? Well, first, you need an audience. It seems obvious, but have you ever seen people walking down the street talking themselves? It doesn't look pretty. And then after you get an audience, deliver whatever you've got to say with some style. Appeal to emotion. No monotone. Change the tone. No mumbling ever. Do it with some confidence. Sell it and animate it. Very important to be lively if you can. Always have water with you too. And then use your style and your delivery to deliver substance. Have something worthwhile to say. Tell the audience what they want to hear. Tell the audience what you believe. Find a need and speak to it, and offer only limited statistics and facts. Make an impact. Call the audience into action. If you can, create up some catchy titles. They can be useful. And then wait for an emotional calamity where life and death hang in the balance. If you do all of that, you have a chance at making a great speech, maybe the best speech ever, really. Now here's some style and substance and impact wrapped up into one sentence from George Washington. If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter. Seems simple, but it's more difficult than it actually seems. Now, I'd like to remind you that the title of my presentation tonight is The Best Speech Ever, really. But there's fine print that I'd like to call your attention to, which reads as follows, or why America is smart enough to have left plenty of room for improvement. I have been called naive. I have been called a blood-sucking bottom feeder. I have been called ignorant on matters of America, our government, our people, and the world. I have been called a man with a child's eye. But I continue to have hope. For some, hope is a quiet internal whisper that things will turn out well. To others, hope is directed outward at God, fate, superstition. Yet for others, hope sets a goal and provides the determination to keep working toward that goal despite the odds. For some, hope can be all of the above. Two popular presidents, Bill Clinton and President Obama, used hope to inspire millions into action. Many great leaders inspire hope, not for some spiritual, mystical, inexplicable reason, but because they have hope. It's actually part of them. They believe it, they convey it. Hope is real, it is a choice, it is an attitude that says, I will do it. It's actually motivational to be with truly hopeful people. Somehow it rubs off. The transference of hope from one to another is desired. Hope and knowledge, they do not compete. Hope is about the future. Knowledge is about the past. Hope embodies the concept of human improvement, inspiring us to go forward, to do better, to do things we thought we could not do. Religion understands this well, the infectious nature of hope. Hope is highly valued. It's hope that allows people to believe in an afterlife, that an afterlife will be better than this life. Hope and belief is far more powerful than the knowledge that there is no evidence of life after death. Is there life after death? Yes, just not yours. Without hope, many people would give up and societies would fail. I'll wager that everyone in this room has hope. Hope is good for us. Hope is positive. Hope helps us battle procrastination. Hope helps us withstand discomfort and pain. Hope makes us less anxious and have fewer depressive tendencies. Too often, when one loses hope, we lose lots. Sometimes, even our life. Hope can actually be the beginning of a journey for which three things are needed: a destination, a goal, a route, a pathway, and a means of transport, a way to get there. Hope can be the beginning of a great journey. Children seem to hope intuitively. A child's eye seems to automatically turn obstacles into personal challenges. Ever watch children in the playground, where there are canyon climbers, balance beams, tube slides, rope swings, tall ladders, hard-to-reach monkey bars? Children turn challenges into endless opportunities for fun. Their goals are very clear. I'm going to do it all. First, I'm going to swing across the monkey bars. Their plan develops, and with some support and guidance, their confidence grows. But as adults, sometimes we lose sight of our goals. Our failures are too often where we stop. We lose focus. We lose enthusiasm. We lose the hope that says we can do it. We might be wise to find ways to rekindle childlike enthusiasm. It is my experience that hopeful people are realistic people too. Hopeful people tend to be more knowledgeable about their surroundings and see obstacles as challenges. Winston Churchill said, "Success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm." We encounter obstacles all day long, but a hopeful person generates more pathways through them. The difference between getting there and getting stuck is mostly a matter of good thoughts that are transferred into action. We can give up, or we can continue to hope. Approaching all the intervening obstacles is just another monkey bar in the playground, which offers some explanation as to why I have hope. I have hope for the ingenuity, the creativity, the innovative Americans who help make up the United States of America. We excel at innovation. It seems that good innovators are need seekers. Find a need and serve it, and we will do well. Yet, we struggle with the way we teach our children what it means to be an American. We struggle with what it means to have a Constitution and a Bill of Rights. We struggle with what it means to have due process of law and to live in a representative democracy, and how we as a country should live with the rest of the world. I spoke a little bit about fear earlier. Our news sources seem to mostly report doom and gloom. Why? Because doom and gloom sell better than peace and happiness. Our news sources repeat to us that our drinking water could get so contaminated and kill us. Our hoodied neighbor might rape our children. Terrorists in the Middle East will kill us. The Mexican drug lords will kill us. Bird flu will kill us. It is amazing we're alive. All this and more are reasons we have more guns in America than people. We are afraid. Other countries do not live with the same fears we do. In the U.S., sadly, today, our sense of security trumps nearly everything. Our civil rights, our Constitution, even our liberty. A recent glaring example of our Constitution being rendered a document without respect is Section 1021 of the National Defense Appropriations Act, in which they describe indefinite detention of any American citizen at the behest of the President. Before that, there was the USA Patriot Act. Before that, there was FISA. Why does Congress deny our constitutionally guaranteed habeas corpus? Is it because we are truly afraid? Is there more money in fear than freedom? Is it that they don't know what they've done? Is it all of the above? Have we grown too big? Have we become too cynical? Have we lost our ability to hope that we can restore meaning to the Constitution? Have we lost hope that we can turn from a war-based economy to a true peacetime economy? Is America only a step toward the next great societal experiment? What might be different? Should we teach our youngest citizens the meaning of what it is to be an American and how to responsibly engage in civic matters? Would the chances increase that they will grow up as adults who understand, cherish, and respect our Constitution while working toward a sustainable future? Would they then be better equipped to make meaningful contributions to our public and civil discourse? Or Is it too late? I hope not. I think not. Because we are smart enough to have left plenty of room for improvement. We should improve at bringing more ideas into the discussion. We have free speech, but we have trouble being heard. Sometimes good ideas take a long time to be embraced. Abolition of slavery, women's right to vote are only two examples. Too many people have simply accepted our duopoly, the two-party system, yet too many third-party advocates seem not to understand that politics is incremental steps, not giant leaps. The two major parties have huge differences on social issues, but great similarities regarding the dangers of the multinational industrial complex. Third-party advocates seem frustrated to the point of anger, and some have given up. We can do better. We need to improve our understanding that we are all in this together. We can do better, and we are getting better. Don't tell us, though, that Jesus loves you, but hates homosexuals, gay marriage, gun control advocates, conservationists, animal rights activists, and Barack Obama. Don't tell us you're a job creator who is good for the economy and then fire your workers, shut down the company, and outsource everything possible overseas. Don't tell us the NRA, the ACLJ, and the American Legislative Exchange Council are trying to protect the public, while the other nonprofit public interest groups like the Sierra Club, the ACLU, the Trust for Public Land, the Urban Land Institute, Head Start, Planned Parenthood, care only about taking our freedoms away and turning everybody into tree huggers, vegetarians, Nazi lovers, and baby killers. Don't tell us that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are unalienable rights. Life an unalienable right? Yet you support the death penalty? Don't tell us that comprehensive family health care and generous job benefits to Congress, federal employees, and military personnel is patriotic, but providing health care to all American citizens is socialism? Don't tell us there's no proof of global climate change, rising sea levels, melting glaciers, increased levels of carbon dioxide, but teaching creationism in public high school science class is a good idea? Don't tell us that the government that governs least governs best, except when it comes to abortion, warrantless wiretaps, indefinite detention, marijuana, bailouts, and travel to Cuba. Don't tell us you're a child of immigrants, yet you oppose the DREAM Act. Don't tell us the fiscal cliff, our national deficits, and our out-of-control debt are huge problems that must be dealt with at all costs, except by raising taxes or cutting defense. Don't tell us that everything is better privatized, including prisons, education, and disaster relief. We're smarter than that. We can do better. The good news is we have left plenty of room for improvement, and I have great hope that we are making progress, and I am about to embark on a journey. A journey with a destination, a pathway, and a means to get there. On my journey, I want to talk with the wealthy, the homeless, veterans, educators, soccer moms, NASCAR dads, clergy, non-believers, believers, farmers, people off the grid, people in the big cities from Wall Street to Main Street to Sesame Street. I want to talk with the children, especially the children. I want to talk with lots of people on my journey in an effort to characterize who is we the people, and what should it mean to be an American? How can we justify telling the world how great we are when we just struggle with what it means to be an American? I'm calling my journey the Capitals Tour. Well, I will take video cameras throughout North America, stopping at each state capital and points of interest in between, to capture the raw, extemporaneous opinions from a wide variety of people relative to civic-minded public interest issues. I still have hope, but I also know that hope can be delicately balanced between working for a better future for all and the knowledge that some things never seem to change. We still engage war. We still exchange freedom for profits. As wealthy as we are, we still have poverty. As advanced as medical care has become, we still put earnings before health. With all the technical comfort, advances that we have, we still are grumpy. We too often mistake comfort for happiness. With the knowledge we are all connected, at least connected as carbon-based life forms, we still seem distant. With all the people in the world, there is still loneliness, depression, and suicide. With all the poetry, the literature, and the beautiful music in the world, we still seem self-destructive. Many turn to religion to find the spark that lights hope. However, sadly, too often, hope is just another commodity to exploit. But I still have hope, knowing that while our forward progress in America sometimes seems like 2 steps forward and 1 step back, that is still forward progress. We've heard that those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. We should learn from history, and those with hope are well positioned to offer limitless possibilities that let history dream. One of the best things about a speech, great or otherwise, and it's no secret, is when it ends. The era of great speeches is fading. We're more interested today in what it takes to make a great tweet. My challenge for us tonight is to turn our hope into meaningful action, because I believe it is in the process of turning hope into action where we find the joys of life. I'd like to thank you for listening to my presentation. I'd like to thank you for inviting me back to offer my free thoughts, brought to you by free speech. And now, forevermore, when asked about the best speech ever, really, you'll have something to say. As always, you're a great audience. And now, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a few questions.